When your husband is gone more than he's home, loneliness stops knocking. It lets itself in. I was the loyal wife, the quiet homemaker, the woman who smiled through the ache. But one winter, my 21-year-old stepson came home from college and looked at me not like a mother, but like a woman. What happened next wasn't planned. It was a mistake, a betrayal, and it changed everything. Hello viewers, thanks for stopping by. If you are already a subscriber, thanks for returning back to our channel. If you like our stories and similar infidelity stories, please subscribe to our channel to be notified anytime drop our stories. Thank you. My name is Susan, I'm 43 years old. You would think I had it all. A lovely home in the heart of Virginia, the kind with white shutters, flower beds that bloom with purpose, and a wraparound porch that invites stories. I had a husband with a strong jaw, a good name, and a government job. Mr. Anderson, as everyone respectfully called him, even me on occasion, was admired by neighbors and revered by coworkers. He worked in Texas for immigration, gone 3 months at a time, chasing borders and laws while I remained inside my own borderless ache. People don't talk enough about what it means to be a wife with no hands to hold at night. A wife who eats dinner at a table built for two, but always dines alone. The kind of woman who wakes to birdsong and silence, makes coffee for one, and wears perfume just to remember the scent of being noticed. I tried everything in the early years. I wrote him letters sealed with lipstick kisses, sent him pictures of the meals I made, the garden I tended, the smile I faked. But time is a thief. It stole the urgency from his voice, the playfulness from his texts, and the warmth from his visits. When he came home, he was tired, bone-deep tired. He'd collapse on the couch, drink 2 fingers of scotch, and sleep like a stone. No words, no laughter, no touch. So I learned to shrink my wants. I learned to fold my longings into the laundry, to rinse them with the dishes, to weed them out like dandelions from the garden. And I convinced myself that I was fine, that I should be fine, that a roof, respect, and regular calls were enough. Until winter came. Andre arrived home from college just before Christmas. 21, tall, sun-kissed from a semester spent in California. He was Mr. Anderson's son from a previous marriage. I hadn't raised him. I'd met him when he was already 17, but he always called me Susan, not Mom, and he always hugged me a little longer than necessary. When he walked through the door that December, something was different. He filled the house with youth and heat. His voice carried laughter, his movements were confident, his gaze was direct. And I, fool that I was, felt like a woman again. Not a ghost in a nice dress, but a body with blood and breath and want. It started innocently. A brush of his hand when we passed in the hallway. A late-night glass of wine. A compliment on my hair. Then, one morning, I stepped out of the shower to find him in the hallway, shirtless, eyes locked on mine like I was something he had already dreamed. "Susan," he said, "you deserve more than this life." I don't know why that broke me, but it did. In the bathroom, it was desperate. A mess of towels, lips, and gasps. In the kitchen, it was frantic, backs pressed to cabinets, fruit rolling off counters. In the field behind the house, beneath the whispering trees, it was soft and slow, the kind of touch that made me cry. And in my bed, his father's bed, it was the first time I had felt alive in years. It wasn't just the sex. It was the laughter, the teasing, the shared songs, the way he looked at me like I was the center of something. I should have stopped it. I should have screamed no. But I didn't. I let it become our secret season. But seasons change. By March, Andre grew quiet. The fire in his eyes dimmed. He stopped coming to the bedroom. He started leaving the house for hours. One morning, I woke to find his room empty, his closet bare, a note on the pillow. "I can't live with this.
I'm sorry."
He never came back. He never called. And I stood in that empty room, holding a shirt he left behind, and I wept for the girl I used to be, for the woman I became, and for the mother I never was. When Mr. Anderson returned, 3 days later, with tired eyes and arms too full of luggage, I smiled and kissed him. I made him dinner. I drew his bath. And I swallowed my guilt like communion wine. Because this is not a story of evil. This is not a story of lust. This is the story of a woman who had everything and still went cold every winter. You don't wake up the next morning and become someone else. You carry the scent, the skin memory, the breath of sin like a second shadow. It follows you through your days. Even when the sun is out, even when your husband is home again, even when the house returns to its normal rhythm, you feel it. The shift, the trespass, the ache. Mr. Anderson, Thomas, came back from Texas that March with sunburnt cheeks and a suitcase full of legal paperwork. He kissed my cheek like a routine. He thanked me for the roast I made like it was a service. He slept like a stranger beside me, his back always turned, his breath slow, and even while mine was caught in the back of my throat. I tried to be the woman he remembered. I folded his shirts with care, added cinnamon to his morning oats the way he liked, and placed a rose on his pillow on our anniversary. He smiled, nodded, murmured his thanks. But he never touched me. Not like before. Not even like he used to when we were just going through motions. No hand on my waist. No lingering glance. And I was ruined by Andre's gaze. By his hands. By the terrible and beautiful truth that, for 3 months, I had felt something beyond loneliness. I kept asking myself, what was the price of that touch? What does a woman owe when she's been seen, truly seen, by someone she should have ignored? Guilt? Shame? Punishment? The answer came in pieces. First came the silence. Andre didn't call. No email. No message. The boy who had once left my body shaking now left my soul hollow. I searched him on social media like a desperate addict, but he'd gone dark. I called his phone once. Just once. It rang twice before going to voicemail. I never tried again. Then came the dreams. In them, Andre stood at the foot of our bed while I slept beside Thomas. He'd watch me with eyes full of regret, full of longing, and when I reached out, he'd vanish. I'd wake in a cold sweat, tangled in bedsheets, biting back a sob. I stopped going into Andre's old room. I couldn't bear the smell of his cologne on the pillow, the way the light hit the empty desk chair. I let dust settle on the books he left behind. I closed the door and tried to pretend he had never been there. But some ghosts live not in attics or cellars, but in the bloodstream. One night, as Thomas sat on the porch smoking, I sat beside him, wrapped in a shawl, sipping tea I couldn't taste. "You've been quiet," he said without looking at me. "So have you." He exhaled, slow and heavy. "Hard work. A lot on my mind." I almost laughed. I almost told him, "You don't know the meaning of a lot." But I just nodded, the dutiful wife. "Is something wrong, Susan? Wrong?" I wanted to scream. "Everything's wrong, Thomas. I loved your son. I ruined myself. I betrayed you, and I can't unfeel it, unknow it, unlive it." But instead I said, "No, just tired." He placed his hand over mine, warm and familiar. I nearly recoiled from the weight of what I had done. That was the worst of it, I think. Not the affair, not even the aftermath, but the pretending, the silence, the 1,000 unspoken things we carried in our chests while we played house. Because he didn't know. Not yet. Maybe he suspected. Maybe he had felt the chill in the air, the hollowness in my laughter. But he didn't ask. And I didn't confess. You see, there is no comfortable punishment for betrayal. There is no way to wipe a slate this stained. So you bear it. Quietly. Elegantly. You wear nice dresses. You bake his favorite pies. You answer questions at dinner parties with a smile. But inside, you die a little every day. I thought I had paid the price already. But I was wrong. Because guilt is just the beginning. The real cost, the part one hadn't prepared for, was living with the absence of love. Andre had made me feel again, yes. But he also reminded me of everything I had lost. Everything I could no longer have. He took his youth and left me with my winter. My silence. My empty bed and cold shoulders. And the echo of a name I could no longer speak aloud. It was late April when the silence became unbearable. The kind of silence that thickens in the corners of rooms and stretches between two people like a taut wire. The kind that hums even louder than words. Thomas still hadn't asked. Not about Andre. Not about the hollow look in my eyes. Not about the cold way I turned my back to him in bed. He simply existed beside me, like a man walking past a grave he refused to dig up. I told myself he was too tired, too proud, too afraid. Maybe he thought if he ignored it long enough, the storm would pass. But the truth is, storms don't pass when the sky itself is broken. One evening, I stood in front of the hallway mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. My face was thinner, drawn in places it used to be soft. My eyes, once warm and flirtatious, had grown flat, like the light behind them had gone out. I touched my cheek. I looked for traces of the woman Andre had kissed in the kitchen, held in the field. But all I saw was regret in lipstick. I knew I had to say something. It started on a Wednesday over soup. The rain was falling lightly against the windows. Thomas stirred his bowl absently while I pushed mine away. My appetite lost somewhere in the weight of what I had decided. "I need to tell you something," I said. He didn't look up. About while you were gone." That made him pause. His spoon froze mid-stir, hovering in the broth. Slowly, he set it down and looked at me. Not with anger, not even with suspicion, but with that tired, guarded weariness that made me ache more than any fury would have. "I was lonely," I said. "You know that. You've always known that." He nodded slowly. "Susan, Andre came home. You know that, too." His jaw tightened just slightly. "I know." I stared down at my hands. They looked older than I remembered. Trembling, frail. It wasn't just conversation. It wasn't innocent. I crossed a line. We both did. For a moment, I thought he might not breathe. The silence turned into something sharp. He stood up from the table, so quickly the chair scraped hard against the floor. "You and Andre," he said, barely above a whisper. I nodded, ashamed, tears already burning in my eyes. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He didn't even move. He just stood there, staring at the floor, like the weight of the air had changed and he no longer knew how to stand beneath it. "How long?" he asked. 3 months, I whispered. "While you were gone." He covered his face with both hands. His chest rose and fell with a force I hadn't seen in years. And then, finally, he let out a breath. "My son. I didn't plan it. I didn't mean for it to happen." "Don't," he said sharply. "Don't insult either of us with that." I sat still. My hands clenched in my lap. He didn't look at me again that night. He didn't sleep in our bed. He didn't say another word. Just left the room like a man walking out of his own skin. The days after were quiet. He avoided me. I avoided mirrors. And the guilt grew heavier, thicker, like fog that refused to lift. I had confessed, yes. But confessions don't always bring peace. Sometimes they bring the truth into focus, and it's worse than the lie. I spent my afternoons in the garden, hands in dirt, trying to bury something that would not die. At night, I listened for footsteps, hoping Thomas would come back to our room, hoping he would scream, or cry, or break something. Anything to help me feel the magnitude of what I had done. But he didn't. He simply drifted through the house like a ghost, the same way I had drifted for years. One morning, I found a note on the kitchen table. Not like Andre's, not quick and fleeing. This one was deliberate, careful. "Susan, I loved you. Maybe I still do, in some quiet way that doesn't reach the surface anymore. But I can't share a bed with this truth. I can't walk through a house haunted by betrayal. I'm going back to Texas for work. I don't know when if I'll come back. Thomas." And just like that, he was gone. First Andre, then Thomas. And I was left in that too-big house, surrounded by the echo of my choices, the stillness of shame, the quiet that comes after you tell the truth too late. After they both left, the house stopped pretending. Gone were the polite sounds of dishes clinking, the low hum of conversation, the footsteps that filled the halls. What remained was something rawer, quieter, yes, but not peaceful. Still, but never restful. A silence that didn't wait to be broken, only endured. I walked from room to room that first morning like someone visiting the remains of a life she used to live. I touched things just to remember they were real: the edge of the couch, the knob of the bedroom door, the crack in the window pane where a storm once blew in. Each object a marker of the life I'd built, brick by careful brick, until I shattered it. The kitchen still smelled faintly of cinnamon and citrus from that last pie I baked. The bathroom mirror had steam-streaked memories I couldn't wipe away. The bedroom, stripped now of Thomas's shirts and cologne, felt like a museum exhibit behind velvet ropes. And Andre's room. I still hadn't opened it. Until that day. I stood at his door for a long time, fingers grazing the frame. When I finally pushed it open, the air inside was stale and sharp with absence. Dust had settled on his books, the bed unmade since the morning he left, a single sock still crumpled in the corner, like a ghost of normalcy. I sat down on the edge of his bed and stared at the wall. No tears came. I had cried all my tears in February and March. Now there was only this dry ache, this slow mourning for two people I would never see the same again. My husband and the boy who reminded me I was alive before reminding me I was alone. People think infidelity is about sex, about lust. But it's not. It's about the unbearable weight of being unseen. It's about the kind of hunger that gnaws at you so quietly, so steadily, that by the time it roars, you're already halfway drowned. I wasn't looking for a lover. I was looking to be noticed, to be held, to be told, even once, that I was still a woman worth wanting. But one is not love. And desire without direction is a fire that consumes. Andre never wrote me, never called. I imagined him back in California, trying to forget the line he crossed and the woman he left in the ruins. And maybe that was mercy. Maybe some relationships are not meant to be mended. Maybe some wounds are meant to stay open as reminders of how easy it is to bleed. Thomas, on the other hand, did write. A single envelope came 2 months after he left. No return address. Just his handwriting, still neat, still careful. I'm alive. I'm working. I haven't filed for divorce. Not yet. I don't know what I'm holding on to. Maybe memory. Maybe habit. But I hope you find something to heal you. Not someone. Something. That was all. No apology. No condemnation. Just a quiet acknowledgement of pain shared but not spoken. I placed the letter in the top drawer of my nightstand and didn't reply. Instead, I began to live. Not rebuild, not reinvent, but live. Slowly. Imperfectly. I took walks. I planted tomatoes. I learned to sleep on my side of the bed without waiting for breath beside me. Sometimes, I sat on the porch and let the past settle next to me like an old friend. It no longer haunted. It simply sat there, known, named, and no longer in control. One evening in June, I stood in the center of the field behind the house, barefoot, watching the wind roll through the grass. It was the same field where Andre first kissed me under a sky bruised with clouds. But the grass had grown taller now, and the memory had softened at the edges. I closed my eyes and whispered, I'm still here. Not in defiance. Not in shame. Just as a fact. I had not been destroyed, only changed. My body was still mine. My voice still mine. And so, too, was the guilt, but now it was something I carried with a bit more grace. This house, once a monument to routine, had become a chapel for reckoning. And in that reckoning, I found a strange kind of peace. Not the peace of happy endings or forgiven sins, but the peace that comes from knowing the truth, however messy it may be. I had been a woman who had everything. And still, I reached for more. Now, I had less. But I had myself again. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Have you had an experience similar story? Tell us how you handle it in the comment section. And I forget to hit your notification button so that you get notifications anytime with your past stories. Thank you. Have you heard or experienced similar story? Tell us how you handle it in the comment section, and don't forget to hit your notification button so that you get notifications anytime we post our stories. See you in my next video. Thank you.